We're going to go ahead and get started. My name is Christy Thompson, and I am the Sales and Marketing Director here at BIS. And we just wanted to say, first off, thank you so much for taking the time to join us. We know you are very busy, and it means a lot for you to be with us here today. Just a few housekeeping items before we begin. Please remember to keep yourself muted until the end of the presentation. At that point, we will open up the microphones if you have any questions, and you can, throughout the presentation, put it in the chat right here. You can send it to us or send it to everybody, and we'll respond to those throughout the presentation as well. The topic today is on identity theft. Let's see, Philip, can you pull up the presentation for us?
Sure. I'm sorry. I thought are you not able to see it?
I think maybe it's the wrong screen.
Which screen are you seeing? Hold on.
We were seeing the go to meeting screen.
How about that one?
There we go. Perfect.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah, so our topic is how to stop criminals from stealing your identity. And as you can already tell, Philip's on the call. He's going to be hosting the webinar today. If you're not already familiar with Philip, he is the CEO of BIS Technology Group. He's also a technologist and entrepreneur who specializes in providing technology solutions and security consulting to businesses along the Gulf Coast. He's the owner of 5+ businesses. He's worked in the IT industry for over 18 years. And he's worked with 600+ clients from Gulfport to Gulf Breeze. And he's also a certified information system security professional. And this is a big certification because it's actually backed and approved by the Department of Defense. So without further ado, I will pass this along.
All right, Chrissy, thank you very much, and thank everybody for attending. Like I say, I know your time is valuable, so we really like to, get to the meat and bring up topics and speakers really that are going to affect how you do business. And and that's why we have Matt Fetner on. He has been in the financial sector for over 20 years. He's currently the Senior Vice President at Bryant Bank here in Baldwin County. He is really a personal friend, and he's been my banker for, I believe, almost the entire time we've been in business. I'm bad with dates, but a very long time. He's got a Bachelor of Science degree in finance from the University of South Alabama. He's served as the board of directors for the South Baldwin Chamber. He has also been the co-chair of the advisory board for the Snook Family YMCA. He's been a member of the Foley Rotary Club since 2010, and he's also been the president for the 2013-14 thing. And and really, I think Bryant Bank and Matt, they're really community folks, and it's not unlike him to do a lot of this kind of stuff where he just really wants to help the community. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Matt Fetner. Matt, can you hear me? Hey, Matt, there you are.
You can hear me now?
I can hear you now, buddy.
All right. Philip, thank you for having me. Christy, thank you for setting this up and working with me getting this going here. Appreciate the kind words and really look forward to participating in this webinar and hopefully helping out.
Yeah, well, good. We'll go ahead and we're going to jump right in. I want to talk about just some things that have happened and that are happening and happening often. Let's talk a little bit about bank phishing emails. I'm sure everyone's aware that a phishing email spelt with a PH is a kind of a trick email that comes to you to try to steal information. Tell me your thoughts on that, Matt. How are y'all seeing that?
We do see that. We do have a lot of clients that have received phishing emails. The funny thing is that a lot of times they'll receive emails from banks that they don't have any business with. So somehow their email is picked up out there, and information they're trying to get information on them. It's easy a lot of times to click on emails from a financial institution. You think that, hey, this might be something I need to look at. We, Bryant Bank, and I want to say most other banks that I know, that friends of ours that are bankers, they do not. We make it a business not to ask for information or have you provide information or other kind of credentials through an email. So if you do get an email from a bank, that's one thing. A lot of times banks like to market through email. They'll try to send you some information on products or rates, but as far as trying to get any information, that's where you start running into issues.
Yeah, and that's right. I mean, I think that a lot of times we're so inundated with emails, and in a day, I don't know, I read a stat, the average business person gets over 100 emails a day. And you think about that over a week, there's 500 opportunities. I like to think about, Donald Rumsfeld, he said, after 9/11 that, the America had to be right every time, and the bad guys only had to be right one time. So that's kind of the way it is as
That's
it
right.
relates to email. And we want to always think before we click. One thing I always say is that, in considering email itself, if, Matt, if I sent you an email, what would be an appropriate business response for you to reply back to me in hours?
As far as asking for information from me?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, a lot of it has to do with knowing your customer. Philip, I know you. I know an email coming from you and the questions asked, and what typically something like that would look like. I try not to reply back with any information, any kind of secure or confidential information through an email, because you just don't want that floating around out there. There are secure messages that you could send. A lot of times when we're dealing with title companies or law firms, loan closings, that confidential information is sent back and forth. We at Bryant Bank try to use a secure message to be able to make sure that any information that is sent back and forth is password protected and goes to another level of a password to keep it confidential.
Sure, but I was meaning more in a time frame. I mean, if I sent you an email and asked you a question, what would you think in just time of response for in a business environment? How long before you think I would be like, dang, Matt forgot about me? Would it be 2
I guess
hours,
it
4 hours,
depends on the
8
day,
hours?
Phil.
But I mean,
Typically, we try to respond to emails, within the day, so 24 hours.
there you go. That's what I'm trying to get you to say is
Oh,
that I
okay.
want to, what I'm wanting to make the point of is that email is something that like I recommend that people turn off their little dinger telling them every time they get an email, because it distracts you. If it was
Sure.
that doggone important, my point I'm trying to make is if it's that doggone important, they'd call you or they do something else. Most people say within 24 hours, if you give a one business day response, that's good business etiquette. So I'm trying to let people think about it, just like chill out on having to click so quick, think before you click kind of thing, because if it was that important, it would be something that they would call you on. And
Absolutely.
just to slow down our brain just a little bit from a very practical standpoint. Another thing I want to talk to you about specifically is, debit card versus credit card. And just
Sure.
this is a little infographic that I pulled up that I thought that, I'd like for you to speak to, and, thinking that, we got a lot of business people on here, and, thinking about, drawing money straight out of their checking account, and what would be your recommendation as a banker as to what, what they need to do?
Sure. No, I think my recommendation I would first need to kind of have a conversation with the customer and know some of the things they were needing. From a business standpoint, a credit card offers a lot of benefits, not only from the standpoint of building credit or earning points, but it also gives you some flexibility to allow certain folks to use your the credit to purchase, instead of having to write checks and have checks floating around out there. So there are a lot of benefits to a credit card. And then for a debit card, just a lot of that is a preference. From a security standpoint, credit cards are much more secure because of the fraud protection and some of those items that come with the credit card. But again, it kind of goes back to a personal preference and being specific to each customer or each company.
Yeah, kind of my take has always been, now, again, you could really hurt somebody, say, yeah, don't use debit cards because, because I think of it from a standpoint, if something happens in the process it takes, if you got your debit card stolen and they were able to put a bunch of charges on there, the onus is a lot more on the individual, the person who owned the debit card, whereas with a credit card, that fraud protection you push off on them. But the other side of that, what I think of from a practical standpoint is, what if you can't manage money well? What if you run up your credit card bills and all that kind of stuff? But I think for a solid individual who knows, sees money as a tool, I think credit cards are a lot better vehicle from a security standpoint because of that fraud protection. And again, like what you said, I like that a lot with what you said there with the hang on a second, my dang phone was, I didn't mute my phone, guys, I'm sorry. There we go. But from a standpoint of just security, and another thing that you mentioned that I like too is being able to give people credit cards so that you don't have to cut checks all the time. They can have a business credit card. And I do a lot of my transactions, and with the companies that I own and things, one of the main methods of just being able to track expenses, I use credit cards to do that. So really, really a good vehicle.
Now, for somebody that does like to use a debit card,
yeah.
At Bryant Bank, and I would recommend checking with your financial institution. There are several current products that the banks have come out with, like Apple Pay or Samsung Pay, Google Pay, Fitbit Pay, those type pay items where you download your debit card to your phone and have the ability to pay through either the phone or a Fitbit. And then in addition to that, Bryant Bank offer a My Card Rules is what we call it, and this is app that allows you to monitor your transactions or set alerts or spending limits. But the key there with a debit card is that you can turn your debit card on and off. I'm sure y'all seen some of the bigger banks that have the commercials that say, "Hey, I lost my debit card." You turn it off with your phone and turn it back on. So there are some new features that debit cards are starting to offer that allow you to keep that debit card more secure.
Yeah, that's great stuff too there. In a way, and we're going to talk about this a little bit later, but in a way it's like two-factor authentication, meaning it's you have to be in possession of your phone in order to make the transaction, as well as, so it's just really layers of security, and that's really good stuff. I want to talk just a minute about some other types of scams that we're seeing in the area where, for instance, there has been a phone scam that's going around where people are calling people and claiming that they're part of the Baldwin County Sheriff's Department, and they're telling them that they have an unpaid fine, that they're going to go to jail, and if they don't buy a prepaid card to pay immediately or give them credit card information. So that's something that you want to keep in on the top of our mind, that we get a lot of calls, and it's quite frankly, the do not call list thing that came out, everybody signed up. It did absolutely nothing to stop that. So be aware when people just randomly call you, and they'll try to Baldwin County Sheriff's Office, or even for a donation, or all kind of things that people can be really to steal your information and to ultimately take money out of your bank account. So we want to be aware of that. Another thing I think we'd be amiss if we didn't talk about is, I'm sure most of the people on the call now, they know about the security problem that they're having over at the SPRINGHILL Medical Center. And just thinking about email, this is really, I want to give a couple of points to the business owners. Number one, it's really, this more than likely came through email, and they've encrypted the security system over there, not the security system, but the computer system over there. So they're on paper charts right now. And another thing that was just released today that I read is that they stood up a new server and they immediately got hacked again. And if you have had a breach, or if you've had a security incident, you kind of go on the hot list as as a, we got a live one on the line, guys. So they're going to attack you even harder. Because of that, we've seen it. We'll, watching just firewalls. And so if you've had a breach, you really have to step it up big time, because they're going to try to hit you again. This happened to Spring Hill. And finally, well, two more things I want to mention is, and this is something I'm really getting involved in a lot, is cyber liability insurance. Not so much that I want to sell it, but I want to look over the policies, because you need to have it. If you're a small to mid-sized business owner, you absolutely need to have cyber liability insurance, because your typical professional insurance or errors and omissions will not cover a cyber breach. And then kind of going deeper into that is that there are some kind of assumptions, or really there are things that you're signing off saying that you are doing in order to, kind of like PCI, you have to do certain things to be able to not have to pay that extra fee. Well, with cyber liability, there's certain things that you have to do in order to get the full coverage that they offer. So that's one thing. And then finally, they had I feel just terrible for these guys. They had an absolute PR nightmare. They got a camera stuck in their face, and the guy said no comment. And I'll help anybody on the call with developing a script that basically says, if something happens, and I really like to think about not if but when, because the market, the world is getting so much more prone to this, that I feel like if you're going to be in business a while, that something bad's going to happen at some point. You want to have that cyber liability insurance, and you want to be prepared with a statement to say, yeah, well, I want to ensure you that we've done all our due diligence, we practice due care, we've got a team of people investigating the problem, because that's what that cyber liability insurance will put in place for you, is a team of forensic specialists to come in and evaluate to see what happened. And we're going to do all the things. And you really want to have a statement prepared, so that if that happens, you're not sitting there like a deer in the headlights, because in this case, silence implies irresponsibility or incompetence, which can further hurt your position. So I wanted to at least go through that, Matt, just because that's something that happened local, and a lot of times people, they don't pay attention till it happens to their neighbor. And that's some really good advice, I think, from a business perspective. So we'll kind of jump back into our normal regular programming here. So let's talk about some ways that we can protect our identity. I appreciate the banking industry a lot, because I would say, I don't know, Matt, what's your thoughts? I think you guys got out ahead of this, because you've been on this game a long time on it, because real money gets taken.
Well, yeah, you're right. When you have some sort of breach and information, and money is taken from your account, that hurts. That's a real life, instantaneous, factor that you need to do something about. But in addition to that, securing your information is also something that we take very seriously at Bryant Bank, and we try to go through certain steps and make sure we're doing what we can to keep that information secure, as well as your money.
Yeah, let's talk about email. What's your kind of thoughts or some suggestions on email? Email being your largest risk of a breach or of security incident is going to come in on email. Talk to me about some tips on that.
Well, like I mentioned earlier, banks, businesses do not email you for information. If there's something that we need from you, that there's in person or phone call information that we can get from you, and especially to respond with that information. Knowing who you do business with. If you get an email from a bank that you don't do business with, obviously there's a red flag there. Somebody got your email somehow. Some things that we also like to be aware of is any kind of suspicious emails from an unknown address. And then something silly that we see on a regular basis is we'll get emails and has either run-on sentences, fraction sentences, or misspelled words, which would lead you to believe a lot of times this information or this email is coming from outside of the United States or an English-speaking country, and words aren't put together right or misspelled. So something to kind of look for there.
Sure. Also, hovering over the links is another way, which to me is really difficult on a mobile device. You can't really hover over a link and see where it's going to, and there's so many ways that you can do things. But really, email being your number one risk. One of the things that I recommend is that you have a good corporate email, and that's the account that you use. All of your employees, don't allow them to check personal email on your network. You can block that easily in the firewall, because I always say, if I've got 1,000 doors I've got to secure, that's going to be a lot harder than if I just have one. Have a good corporate email with a good spam filter. And even for the business owners, that have their own Gmail and all that, go ahead and forward your Gmail to your corporate account, so that your other type mail, your AOL mail, and forward it to your corporate account. That way that thing can go away. So those are a couple tips. Let's talk a little bit more. Let's go into the next item here. What about monitoring credit reports? You kind of touched on the bank thing, that app that you had. Talk to me about that.
Yeah, sure. And as far as the app, that doesn't necessarily directly connect or talk with credit reporting agencies. Those are third-party vendors that we use to pull and look at your credit. But as far as the bank account information goes, each month you'll get a statement. Obviously you want to check that, or more often than that. With online banking and mobile banking, you can look at your account on a second-by-second basis. The app that I was referring to at Bryant Bank, called My Card Rules, it does give you the option to even receive alerts. So if you were to set it up to where spending over a certain amount happens, it could alert you, or actually decline it if it's over a certain amount. So that kind of is a nice feature, and we, along with a lot of other banks, offer similar products to that. And then the Apple Pay is what I use on my iPhone, where you can have your information on there and use that. And again, like you said, it's a two login information, where you have to have your phone with you, and then also unlock it to be able to pay. So that's some options that you can use to keep that banking account information secure.
Yeah, I use a paid for credit monitoring service, but I was talking to a guy the other day about My Credit Karma, or whatever that is, and he said that was really phenomenal. Do you know anything about that?
I personally have not used it, Philip, but I know a lot of our clients have that, and there's even a feature on some of them where you can lock the credit report where nothing is able to go through. So no items are able to be opened up or to access the credit unless that customer gives the authority. So in an instant of somebody coming in and making a loan, a lot of times they'll tell you, hey, my credit's locked, and so when you're ready to pull credit, let me know, and I have to contact the credit reporting agencies to allow you to check my credit. So there's definitely some features there with credit reporting agencies that you can access to help secure your credit.
Yeah, I like it. Let's talk a little bit about password best practices.
Yeah, sure. And with our with our online banking system is where I'll kind of stay. And we do have the options where you have to go in and have capital plus lowercase and characters and numbers. A lot of times that's really hard to keep up with unless you're doing it on a very regular basis. But once you're able to come up with that very distinct password that is only going to be known by you, definitely helps keep individuals from being able to access the account. Another step that we take at the bank is recognizing the actual device or system that you're logging in from. And if somebody tries to say somebody is able to get your username or password and they try to log on from another computer, then what it'll do is it actually has to verify that device by sending a message back to a number or an email that we have on file for you. So several options there to keep your information secure and safe.
Yeah, I like that. There's a product that we use here as a company called LastPass. There's a free version that the individual can use, and it'll store those passwords in an encrypted file so that you can really have a really hard password and you can keep up and have different ones. Because I read a report, it's been a while back, but they said that 65% of people use the same password across multiple platforms, meaning that my banking password might be the same as the password, my Amazon password and my Netflix password, so that if there's a breach on any one of those systems, the bad guys know, and they'll test your the accounts that you might have by using that same password. So you can use a product like LastPass. It even has a paid for version that we use where like our staff don't even know some of the passwords. They basically have a login where they log into that LastPass, and then they can click and it'll input the password that's hashed or secure or hidden from their view, and then they can log into that thing and not have to say, hey, who changed the password to the XYZ account? So it's really a cool product. We can talk more offline about that, but it's a good tool that is out there. Now, next, let's talk a little bit. If you got more to say about that.
No, I was going to say, I've heard of that product as well, and I know several customers that use that. It kind of goes back to the the comment you made earlier about not if but when. And up until when, people usually will keep that same password, but then once it happens, that's when they understand the benefits of having the different passwords and go through something like that to keep up with them.
I had a conversation with a very large client that is really pretty progressive in their, they're very concerned about security. They own a bunch of entities. I met with him late yesterday afternoon, and he was just talking about just our area in general. And he's from Atlanta, and he's just talking about how, it almost takes somebody close or it happening to you for it to get real. And that's why we do these things, quite frankly, is because I know it's going to happen to somebody, and I want to be sure that I'm doing my level best to educate and inform. Let's jump on talking about giving sensitive information over the phone. Now, that's something that to me is kind of tricky, right? Because I talk to you all the time, Matt. Hell, I'll give you anything. You know that.
That's right. Yeah.
But I know you. But when do you give it and when do you not? Any tips on that?
That's really hard, Philip, because you're right. You do not need to give out any information like that over the phone or through email. But it goes back to knowing your customer or knowing who you're doing business with. If I get a phone call from Phillip Long, I know your voice, and I know you, and you as well with me. So I think it'd be very comfortable for us to share information if we needed to while working through a business transaction or a banking transaction. Where you fall into running a risk is dealing with somebody you don't know, a company you don't know. I get it sometimes. In order to verify, like if someone were to call into the bank and ask for their account balance, we're going to need to know some information, or need to know that they know information to verify who they are. I personally don't like giving out full social security numbers, maybe the last four, if I'm needing to verify who I am with a company. Or a lot of times we'll ask for, okay, what was your last deposit and how much was it for? And so there's other ways you can get information from the customer if they're calling in to verify who they are.
Yeah, and that's right. And I mean, that's kind of, some of the procedures y'all take on, your side, but I think from a business person side, we need to think about that too, is like, before we give out information to somebody, we need to somehow have some secret code or some secret, words or something that would identify that they are who indeed they say they are. I was, I do a lot of continuing education stuff, and it's called phishing. It's basically phishing over voicemail, so there's a V in there. And they had it to where they were like, I send you an email, looks just like from your real bank, and says, hey, you need to call and basically just authenticate your account. Well, the number they put in there is a number that goes to their number, and then they're basically forwarding from their phone system to the real bank's automation, like where you can check your balance and all that stuff.
Really? I have not
And
heard
they
of that.
were, yeah, they were just scamming, man in the middle, scamming all the information based off the tones. So you
Yeah.
want to, my point there is that we want to be sure that, if you get an email to say call the bank or whatever, don't necessarily use that number. If it's to respond back to the bank, don't click on those links. Go find the number that you have, the real, verify the number somehow. Go to their website and do that rather than just click on the whatever they sent you is another good tip, because
that is a good tip. Yeah, I'd not heard of that, but we have people at the bank here, and I'm sure people on the line have folks at their office that wake up daily thinking about, or like you, Philip, thinking about what they can do to protect themselves, because there's somebody waking up every day trying to figure out what they can do to access their information.
Yeah, one thing that just really, I'm telling you, it strikes fear in my heart is a recent report I read, and they talked about ransomware. It's one of the biggest, threats out there, that currently it happens every 14 seconds. And in 2021, they're saying it'll be happening every 11 seconds. And I think I did the math on that. Don't quote me on this. I think it's about 28%. That's a 28% increase in basically a year and a half. I don't know if that was my money growing at Bryant Bank at that rate, I'd be pretty happy. But if I was
Absolutely, you
at that
would.
rate, I'd be pretty unhappy. So that's a very scary thing. That's why we do what we do, is because this is not going away and it's not decreasing. It is indeed increasing, and we have to be ever more vigilant. Let's talk about paying bills securely online, or dropping off the mail with checks to the post office. And I'll kind of add in the next slide on here. We'll couple these two together, where they have locks, even mailboxes at home that you can have, or at businesses that have locks on them. What's your thought on that?
Well, I know we're talking a good bit about having information either secured or not available electronically, but I feel that paying bills through an online system is probably a lot more secure of a way to make sure that bills are paid. Now, granted, the information is out there, but through passwords and
secure
virus on your computer,
yeah,
secure link, you should be able to do that online. Dropping off a payment or a deposit for us, and we have different ways of collecting deposits and payments outside of normal banking hours, whether that through a night drop or also through ATMs. We do have some of our ATMs that are able to process those through the ATM. And then we even have the night drop that we have a key for. If there's a larger company, a lot of times restaurants that have cash, that have a bigger chunk of an item that needs to be deposited, we can offer the keys to open up for bigger deposits. I like doing business face to face and person to person, and having somebody make a deposit or cash check or whatever at the bank, because that's how I like to do business. But I understand that with with the increased technology and capabilities to be able to do this online, we definitely want to kind of think back to what we've been saying about passwords and a secure site before doing that.
Yeah, and another thing, like you hooked us up with that with the swipe card reader, so that we can literally sit here and I don't know about most of the guys on the call, but our business pretty much there's no cash involved anymore, and so pretty much we do the deposit where we just swirl it around. We never have to take a check out. That's really a nice feature that you hooked me up with. And one other thing that I'll mention is this, probably a year and a half ago, maybe, we had a mailbox out front, just regular old standard mailbox, and we were sending bills out, and we're paying bills.
Yeah.
And we found bills that, like, some people called us and said, yeah, we found some of your checks opened, and they were in Foley out on Doc McDuffie Road, and the envelopes were torn open. and the check was still there. I mean, but like this happened on 5 or 6 different checks. I really have no clue what happened. There was no loss, but basically somebody somehow got those checks out of my mailbox and scattered them out. 2 or 3 of them called back in, but there was 5 or 6 of them that were missing. So we went and put in a secure mailbox
That's a good
on
idea.
the building. Yeah, because of that. It's just live and learn.
Well, and one of the things a criminal would try to do there is to try to get your routing and account number, the way your signature's written, and then try to duplicate that check. We've seen instances like that, heard of instances like that, and so that's what they're doing there. If you send a check to an individual and then that individual takes the check and does something with it, it's pretty easy to track that back. Well, easier, but if somebody were to just get information out of your mailbox and then go forward there and try to print checks up, then a lot of times it's easier to track. So that's probably what they're doing there. But good thing you caught it when you did and took the steps you needed to take to keep your information secure.
Yeah. Physical things, shredding documents and credit cards and all that kind of stuff. I guess you would agree that you need to have some kind of, we're partners with Gilmore Services out of Pensacola, really a great group. And, they have those Dropbox things where we even shred hard drives and everything.
Really? Yeah. We did the same with the bank information here. In 10, 15 years ago, that was a big push as far as shredding your information. People would what they call dumpster dive, go in through your trash and get information, and then use that information that they could get on you to access either money or your personal information. And so that you don't see as much of that anymore, but you do see a whole lot more of the online electronic ways of trying to get your information.
Yeah. What about mobile devices? That's something that is kind of in my wheelhouse. And if you were to, if you gave me your phone, if I just had your phone, of course you want to have some sort of a biometric, either facial recognition or either fingerprint recognition, is much better than even the numbers. And that's a form of two-factor authentication. You got to have the phone, and then you got to have that biometric feature, the face or the fingerprint. That's a means of security. I want to really encourage everybody about that, is to have that on their phone, because if I had your phone, think of all the things that you do on your phone. I spoke with a guy the other night. He's a minister now at a church, big church, and he says, "Yeah, I don't even have a laptop." He said, "I'm just seeing how far." He'd been doing it 12 years, and he's a young guy too. He does everything off of his phone, and so what that told me is that, wow, you can do everything off your phone. I mean, he's
That's
doing
exactly right. Yep.
He's communicating.
I had an instance last month where my wife and I did some traveling with another couple, and I once I checked my bag in to the airport, the only thing I had in my pocket was my phone and some cash.
Mm-hmm.
Through the Apple Pay or the mobile wallet, I had my debit card information on there. I had my boarding pass on there. The only thing I had in my pocket was my phone and my driver's license. I slid in the back of my phone, and some cash.
Yeah, it's just crazy what's possible with the phone nowadays. And I'm still, I guess, a little old school. I'm a little older than you. I don't know. I don't look it, but I might be maybe 6 or 8 months older. I'm still like a computer guy. But I see it, man. My kids and just one 10 years, 15 years younger than me, they're like, yeah, that guy was probably 30. And he's like, yeah, I don't need it. What do I need a computer for? I mean, he's got his phone where it hotspots to the TV, basically, where he can stream anything off his phone straight to a TV if he needs to watch a movie or a show. And I mean, I was just thinking to myself, man, that's a very powerful product, of course, but it also houses a ton of information that if people could get their hands on it, they could exploit it.
Yeah, exactly. And if you think it doesn't, let your phone go down or lose it, or drop it in the Gulf where you're out fishing or something, and see how far you can make it without it.
Yeah, you won't last. Yeah, you wouldn't last an hour without your phone nowadays. You would if you left your house. I bet most people wouldn't get a mile away from their house before they knew it. My truck, it says you couldn't sync your phone. Basically, you want to retry, and I know I left my phone,
Yep, that's
so I'm
exactly
not
right.
even out of the driveway before I know. But two-factor authentication, we talked about that already a good bit. Um, it's being used all around. Some people may not know it by that name, but it's basically, hey, you logged into something that says, before I'm gonna let you in, you gotta approve it on a known device. So they'll send you a text. Or if you're using those Apple products, it'll say you got to authenticate it with another one of your Apple products before, if you get a new phone or something. It's something that's very powerful because it's something that and it's something that you have. That's the two factors. And it's something that a lot of applications and a lot of things, if you go into the settings, you can see that it allows for that. And I would encourage people to look into that because it is a great, easy way. I mean, you always got your phone with you. That's one of the main means by which they'll send something to the bank, like you're talking about. If you log in on a new phone or a new computer, it's going to text you or whatever to say, hey, is this really you? So it's really a great way to secure things.
Absolutely.
And finally, I'm gonna just speak to this quickly because I want to really respect everyone's time today. Um, you want to have a defense in depth strategy for your home and your office. We are doing things all over the place. I spoke to, I don't know, about 100 realtors on Wednesday or Tuesday of this week. And these guys are all over the place, and really I think they're just probably a little notch ahead of most business people, but most business people are all over the place. I mean, you're banging out some work on the side of the road, in a coffee shop, at home, in the airport, on vacation. Don't connect to free wireless hotspots. I could make my phone say free Bryant Bank wireless hotspot. I can make it show that on the SSID and really just capture the information, man in the middle you. That happens all the time. It's one of the biggest ways, especially overseas, where people are trying to jump on free Wi-Fi and they I don't know why every time I go over there, well, you're getting on free Wi-Fi and they're putting up free access points just to steal data. So
That's
that's
right.
one thing. And patch your computers. Run the security updates on your computers. Be sure you have a paid for real deal antivirus on your machine. There's free stuff out there for your home, man, that can do it. You can't just have one layer of protection anymore. You really need a defense in depth. Don't use, if you got to have free email, use Gmail. We can talk more offline on that, with anybody that wants to talk more about that, but there's some really practical things you can do that go a long, long, long way in reducing that risk. All right, so really, our job as business owners is to keep our employees and our clients safe. At the end of the day, we need to, actively engage and actively own the responsibility. Is my position. There's a book called Extreme Ownership, and I think I would recommend that to anybody. It's Jocko Willick's, and he's a Marine kind of guy, so it'd probably be more of a guy book. But the principle by which he positions himself is that, we really need to take onus in our lives completely. But as we speak about security and keeping people safe, if you've got your client's information, it's on you to take care of it. If you have your employees' information, it's on you to take care of it. And I always want to say that with conviction and with passion, because I want that to relate to people where they go, yeah, Bryant Bank, dude, you got all kind of my stuff. I hope you're, and I know you are, but you know what I mean. I'm expecting, I'm trusting you with a lot of stuff, and I want you to look after it, and I think that that's the right position we should take in those areas.
Sure.
So to kind of end this, let's talk about, what do we do if your identity is stolen? Let's talk about some real practical things that we can do if it's stolen. What are things that you recommend, Matt? I just had my dang debit card stolen, or I just had my credit card stolen. What should I do?
Yeah, no, and you know what, we've had that situation before, and just kind of what we end up, you know, kind of a go-to on that is, you know, you want to contact the bank as soon as possible, contact credit card company as soon as possible. Each of our locations have top-notch employees in the branch that are there to help, that have seen similar situations and know the steps they have to go through to help you out and get cards shut off, close accounts down, open up new accounts, get your accessibility to funds back. The worst thing to do is if your information or your account is compromised or information's leaked out on or somehow on your debit card or your checking account. Worst thing to do is to keep that account open, thinking that, oh, it's not going to happen again. And the best thing to do, if at all possible, is to sit down with the bank representative and go through the processes of closing down accounts and reopening new ones.
Yeah, have somebody to talk to about it too, you know, about the implications, because sometimes, you know, having somebody else to kind of, you know, walk alongside you is very helpful. You know, another thing I always tell people is, you know, you need to go ahead and, you know, like if you have that service, actually, I'm gonna have a slide on that, so we'll talk more about that. But contact your local law enforcement. Maybe contact the FBI, because a lot of times these things are happening in a local area, and it's good that they can kind of see if a pattern is developing to you know, to be able to help protect and maybe even stop and catch these guys. I think if we could get better at catching them, I mean, I keep up with the ones that they catch, but I mean, for as much as it's happening, they're not catching but a fraction of them. And as long as it's that way, the bad guys, the bad actors are going to continue. I mean, you know, it's a low risk kind of operation to do ransomware for these bad guys. But if we could figure out ways to catch them, I think it would lower their, you know, their desire. You know, if there'd be more pain involved, I think we could keep them. But, you know,
yeah, and one of the things I was going to say along those lines, you said, as far as contacting the proper, I guess, folks, when you have money taken from your account, that is obviously a crime that somebody has stolen from you, and you need a police report filed with the city, or either with the city that you're in or the city that it happened in, and then at that point, that criminal or the police report will go along with different affidavits that are filled out and completed to prosecute and try to go after the folks that did that.
Yeah, I use a product called ID Shield, and it's like a, you know, it goes along with that. Oh, Christy may remember for me. I can't remember, but it comes along with that attorney thing, and I like it because I know that it's two different parts. You can buy them together, but the ID Shield thing, what I like about it, and I can, if y'all email me or whatever, I'll give you the information offline. What I like about it is it's connected to a company called Kroll, and they're a big time investigative. They actually restore. I had my my identity stolen at a Verizon, which this is the first time it happened to me, like at this level where, I mean, they had to have everything. They got my social, they got everything. And I called them. This was like Thursday, Friday. By Monday, they had reported it all to the credit card companies. They froze my account. They did everything for me. All I had to do is fill out a little paperwork to prove that it was me, and they did all the lifting. And within 4 or 5 business days, it was off my credit report. So
I'm pretty impressed. There's a lot of companies out there that do things similar that are really good. So that would be a good resource for you to, I guess, share with folks as far as, you know, access controls.
But you want to freeze your credit files, and that's with those type services. I believe you can contact, like, you could go to the credit bureaus and do that as well, right? Just directly yourself? You
can. Typically, the 3 major credit reporting agencies you see are Equifax, TransUnion, and Experian. Mm-hmm. So yeah, those are the 3 that most all banks use, and the bigger ones. So that, you know, you could contact them directly, or use one of those services and pay for them to handle that for you, since that's what they do all day, every day. They're experts at it.
Yeah, but yeah, you want to freeze that stuff, because in the same way that once you get hacked, from like from a cyber standpoint, same way. Once your data's out there and it's in the wild, the chances of you getting hacked again or whatever it just greatly increases. Another thing too is you got to watch your IRS stuff. That's what I like about that service, is they're watching. They even do it for my kids. I was reading reports about kids going to file their taxes for the first time, and somebody had already done it, and it's a growing segment of bad stuff happening, is that they're taking kids' information.
Yeah, absolutely.
And going after it. Probably nowadays, because kids, they're 25 before they file their taxes. That's just a joke, guys. All right, so let's talk about obtaining some documents and getting that info from the debit collectors. I think that's kind of like a Credit Karma thing, where they'll help you out and get you get you the information for where this is happening. I had a lady in my office. She was going, she's buying a house, and she found something on her credit report. She had no idea who it was, and she didn't know. She flat just didn't know how it happened. Happened 2 years ago. How do you prevent that from happening?
Yeah, that's a that's a good one there. There are, like you were talking about, Credit Karma and Kroll's, the folks out there that kind of help you manage that process. And had she known beforehand and had one of those companies involved that were able to lock it, secure it, it wouldn't happen, or if it did, it would have been very minimal. So I've worked hand in hand with customers before that have had issues on their credit that show up that are not theirs, and I can tell you it's very difficult once it's done to go back in and prove that it wasn't you. So you definitely want to take that serious on the front end and take the steps that you can to protect it.
Yeah. We'll kind of go to this next thing. It's a lot the same, but from a credit standpoint too, say, it's been, my approach is I kind of have a credit card for different entities, and I use them more from an accounting, record keeping kind of thing. And I close any account that I'm not using, but you hear people say, you got to keep those accounts open because it shows whatever to the credit bureaus. What's your take on that from a standpoint, balancing all the balls here? I want to keep my credit looking good, but I don't want to have a bunch of, really open opportunities. If you got a bunch of accounts out there with credit on them, to me, that's an open area to get hit on. So I close them. But you tell me from a banker's perspective.
From my perspective, I've heard that conversation and had that conversation for 20 years now. I don't have an answer as far as open accounts versus closed accounts, what's better versus what's not. If you were to close an account, does it affect your credit? There's sometimes that I've seen it affect people's credit. Sometimes I've seen it not affect their credit. When I'm having this same conversation with folks, the number one thing I say is just pay your bills on time. And you pay your bills on time, then your credit score will be okay. There is another factor out there a lot of times that hurts people's credit scores they're not aware of, and that's the amount of debt associated on an open line to the total potential debt. So, for instance, if you have a $10,000 credit card that has a $10,000 balance, your credit's not going to be as good as if you have a $10,000 credit card with a zero balance or a $5,000 balance. So keeping the level of debt that you have compared to the availability a lot of times affects your credit one way or the other.
Yeah, the ratio. But
those are two of the kind of major points that I've picked up on that over the years that people have had a negative or positive reaction to their credit score. Open in and then close in, and a lot of times I don't see that affecting, and if it does, it's a short-term effect. You pay your mortgage bill 30 days late or 60 days late, that's a long-term effect. It's gonna knock your score pretty good. So pay your bills on time and keep your open lines of credit down to, or if not zero, and that a lot of times your credit score is better off.
Yeah, I could see that. I mean, and usually what I always, I have kids and, trying to teach them about money and all, and I just try to teach them like, okay, let's think about you wanting to loan me some money. All right, if I got, if you look out there and I got everything I got maxed out, you're probably not going to feel as good as me about me as if I had, well, God, he's got $250,000 available to him right now. So, and he's able to discipline himself or whatever, so I think a
Yeah.
lot of it's just common sense. So let's,
Yeah, and a lot of times that common sense plays into the credit decision of being able to loan you the money, but as far as your credit score itself,
mhm,
that may or may not.
I got you. Well, that's where y'all got to hook up with Matt on that, because I could be steering you wrong. So, I always think about, time being a non-renewable resource. And I always ask myself whenever I learn something, or if I read a book, or if I go to something, what should I do with this? And I always encourage people to, life's made up of decisions. So I always take a moment to pause kind of when we're finishing up here, to talk about, what are you going to take away that's going to put yourself in a better position to, to be able to protect yourself, your clients, your entity. I spoke with a lady earlier today, as a matter of fact, and this doesn't have to do with cybersecurity threat, but she's a service company, big service company, doing for some stuff for some big box stores and some big type entities. And one of the entities she had went filed bankruptcy, and she's a service company, so she's far down, she's way behind in the line. That company owed her $332,000, and she's still in business, which I am amazed. But if you have a large line, if you have a big accounts receivable, and you take a bad security breach, dude, you're out. You're out of business. That's why they, statistically, 60% of businesses that have a bad security breach go out, is because they don't have the fortitude to weather it. Now, how this lady did it, and she says, and I believe it because I'm one of her vendors, and she's paid me faithfully um, the whole way. And I had no idea that that's what she was going through. And so, it's very personal to me whenever I hear stories like that about, executing on the information that you've been given. So, I want to make sure that we at least pass that through the filter of, I've got some information here. Matt's been very gracious to join us. And so, really, what do you want to do? One thing we'll do for you guys is run a dark web scan for your company. I'm sure, Matt, you'd be open to chatting with somebody if they had some questions further, huh?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, Matt's a great guy. He would be glad to help you. We'll do a dark web scan to kind of show you, what information is out there. The bad thing about that is that it's like putting a genie back in a bottle. Once that information's out, there's really not a lot you can do to put it back in. And a dark web scan is really a good way to kind of see how exposed your company is. And of course, that's free for everybody on the webinar. What I would ask is get with us before the beginning of the month. We'll keep that open for a couple of weeks, just so that we're doing all free stuff all the time, and of course it takes time, but we want to help. And if you want to take us up on that, if you want to get with Matt, if you want to do a free dark web scan, or if you really want to just talk more about anything that we've touched on, Matt or myself will be happy to. All you have to do is email events@askbis, and we'll be sure to follow up. Christy, do we have any questions or anything out there that we want to go over?
We do. Okay, so one of them is, how do I know if my identity has been stolen?
That dark web scan is a good way to know, is to see what's out there. There's also a few other services. Because I can't spell well, I'm gonna pull up something real quick. There's a site out there, and it's called Have I Been Pwned? And it's HAVEIBEEN, and it's PWNED.com. So it's Have I Been Pwned, and it would be pawned without the A. And it's a great little service. You can pop your personal email in there, and you can see where data may have been breached. That's a good place to start. don't know, Matt, if you got any other tips or tricks.
Yeah, that was a good question because most of the times, by the time we know it, it's too late. By the time we know it, something's happened or somebody's tried to access your account. I know, like through our online banking system, there's if somebody tries to log in and uses the wrong password, or say I log in and I use my personal wrong password, it'll email me. So there are different alerts sometimes that say, hey, somebody's trying to get in your information, but as far as knowing if you have been breached or your information's been leaked, I don't know how you would, other than the website or through Phillip being able to go out through the dark web, search how you proactively could do that.
Yeah, I'll assure you that it is rare. If I run a dark web scan on an entity that's been around for more than a couple of years, we always find something. So everybody's been breached to some level and to some degree. It goes back really a lot to the way you manage it, defense in depth strategies, and knowing proactively when something happens moving forward. But again, we can talk more offline to kind of go over some methods, and really it's really more about strategies, and we're never getting our risk to zero, ever. Never will our risk be zero. And how do we find effective, cost effective based on our socioeconomic thing, based off the types of data that we have, what compliance regulations we have to live up to, and it's really about managing risk at the end of the day.
Great. We have another question. How quickly can identity theft be fixed?
That's probably subjective. I don't know, Matt. What do you think? It's I
guess it depends on the depth of identity theft and what all they got. What we're seeing a lot in the banking world is where you go to a gas pump and you use your debit card, and then they get, not only that they have like a scamming type device, and then your information. A lot of times, once the bad guy has it, what they do is in another state, New Jersey or somewhere way off, San Francisco, California, or somewhere, they try to run another similar transaction at a gas pump, and what it'll do is it'll detect if that card is a good and valid and working card. At that point, we have a fraud team at our bank that picks up on that, and they'll notify you through a text, and then a text or an email doesn't go through, they'll call you, and then if not, they'll notify the bank, and we'll try to contact you to say, hey, see you bought gas here in Foley, Alabama. Are you in, Charlotte, North Carolina, also trying to buy gas? And then at that point, we can turn your card off instantly. That's another benefit of that app that I was referring to earlier about my card rules, as far as being able to turn it on and off. Now that's just debit card, checking account information. That's pretty instant. You can shut an account down quick. We can shut a debit card off in a second. As far as identity, I'm not sure.
Yeah, and again, I think that everybody in today's world, you're going to have to bone up and spend a few bucks and get one of those services like LifeLock or that ID Shield or something. I'm telling you, man, I'm a fan. That ID Shield fixed it, and it was a deal. I had no idea. Matter of fact, it was Matt's when I was doing the financing on this building.
Really?
Got back the thing saying, hey, you got a $200 bill at Verizon. I'm like, huh? I'm like, I don't have a $200 bill at Verizon. Sure enough, fully in my name, had my credit card. They did that company, the ID Shield, they did a full audit on it. They sent me a big old pack. They showed me the paperwork that was actually filled out. It had my social, my name, my address, had everything on it. So I really think that you need to have something like that. I don't know, that probably costs $20 a month or something like that. But the cool thing is it covers my family, and it covers my bank accounts, covers my credit cards. I think it's probably the most comprehensive one that I saw. So anyway, I can talk more offline on that, but I think you got to have a professional going out there working for you, because you could wear yourself out trying to unroot something from in those people. They turned it over to a collection company, and you got to deal with them and all that kind of stuff. That could wear you out. All right. Anything else, Christy?
I believe that's it.
Cool. Well, again, Matt, thank you so much. Christy,
yes, sir. Thank you.
So
Thank you, Chris.
And appreciate all you guys listening. And we're going to drop off here, and we'll tell you a couple cool things that are coming up. We're going to be doing, of course, Christy, where's our Lunch and Learn going to be the next one?
Yes, so it's going to be on Intro to Social Media, how to boost your brand and sales on social media. It's going to be at TP Crockmeyer's in downtown Mobile, I believe on Wednesday, August 28th, 11:30 to 1.
Yep. And one other thing, we're going to spin up a kind of a podcast that we're going to start doing, and I'm going to be interviewing local companies and people with, really I want to focus it around kind of business builder. I want things that are relative to local business owners. How can we, and if anybody on the call, if you've got something that you're passionate about, or you think, hey, every business owner needs to know this. Hell, I learned it the hard way. Let me share that information. Please reach out. You can be a guest, and we really want to bring very very good information and constructive information to our business community. So reach out to us, and you're going to see more of when that particular podcast is going to be. And so we're excited about being able to deliver that. And we hope to see some of you guys out at the TP Crockmeyer's event as well. So I guess I'll end it for now, and we'll catch you guys later. Y'all have a good day.